Hello, 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 y'all. I am fortunate enough to be here with Daniel. And as you guys know, Daniel, if there's a reason he's here, there's something special. I'm not going to steal your thunder, Daniel. Who the heck are you and what are you doing here today?
Well, thank you. Let me bring some thunder then. Yeah, I am a coach, an author, a teacher on the island of Maui, and I serve people by helping them to create whatever they want in their lives. And I do that mostly through my coaching work in a group and private coaching.
That's awesome. Were you originally from Maui or are you a Maui immigrant?
I am originally from Maine in the US.
Okay.
I'm a full-blooded maniac, and I've lived on islands pretty much my whole life. I lived in Bali for a long time, and then Maui just 7 years ago.
Cool. And I've got a really good friends of mine. I'm actually staying at their house right now in Switzerland. They spent about a year in Bali. What brought you there? They're in love with it and they're going to be going back.
Yeah, okay. Well, two pieces I can say to that. One is when I was in my mid-20s, which was like 400 years ago. When I was in my mid-20s, even though I was opposed to religion and I didn't know there was something called spirituality, I got a divine whack upside the head. And that's what launched me into my obsession with personal and spiritual development. And I was obsessed with that and doing only that for 10 years, bouncing around the world until I got another 2x4 upside the head and it said, be in one place, put down roots. And that's what led me to live in Bali. And it was really just divine guidance that brought me there.
What was that whack like? Because I know I've had that experience too of like, the universe's whispers where you're like, I hear it, I know I should do it, but then it's just you didn't listen. A little bit harder, a little bit went from a feather to a punch, then a truck, right? What was that whack on your head that made you make the decision or feel that you needed to put down some roots?
It was one crystalline, precise moment. I was at Harbin Hot Springs in California. I had been with one of my spiritual teachers and it came to an end. There was kind of a fiery blow up and it came to an end. And I was sitting there one afternoon in a lawn chair right by the pool and thinking to myself, gosh, what now? And I was holding my hands out like this in my lap, and an acorn fell from the tree above me, landed right in my open palms. And no kidding, I can't make this up. In that moment, 5 things were instantly clear to me that were changing in my life. And one of them was put down roots.
What were the other 4 if you're open to sharing?
Sure, yeah, I'm an open book. I can share anything. Another one was it was time to go back to writing. I had been studying and working with writing earlier in my life. Another was it was time to end the phase of my spiritual relationship path, which could be called non-monogamy, and move toward a monogamous relationship. And the other 2, let's leave out for now because I'm not remembering what they are.
Sure. And so for you, when did speaking professionally come into your life to support your business or however it came into? I know I'm seeing a lot of different speakers have had a different journey of how they initially started with speaking. What was that like for you?
It was probably around 2002, and a strange sequence of events led me to work with a guy who was giving seminars, to put it that simply. And he was giving seminars. He invited me to come work with him and travel around the world. And this was a weird intuition for me because I said, well, yeah, maybe. And then we kind of negotiated the terms and how much I would get paid and all that. And one negotiation for me in there was, and I want to introduce you on stage every night. And I want you to give me feedback and coach me to become a better speaker. And he was like, man, nobody's ever asked that before, but okay, sure. And I don't even know why I asked it, honestly, though that's what happened. And that changed my life.
Is this seminar person a name that maybe some people would know?
Maybe. He's a big fish in a certain world. His name is David Avocado Wolf. And
Cool.
At the time, he was really big he was kind of the leading figure in the raw food, health, superfood movement.
Cool. And so I know, and I've learned this, majority of people are more scared of public speaking than they are of death. And I know I was very scared of it when I first started. I think some people are born with it and some people, they just pick it up from doing enough reps that, like anything, you do it enough, you're going to get good at it. For you, how have you leveraged that skill since?
Well, one is it's given me an immense amount of confidence, and it's allowed me to lead people, right? To inspire people, to guide them. And I think one of the biggest benefits that you just described in a way is because most people are so scared of it. For those of us that step onto stage and face or overcome that fear, that's inspiring to other people. And so there's a way that people just automatically look up to speakers, and not necessarily because of who they are or their content, but simply because they overcame that fear to some degree.
I was talking about this when I first started getting into posting content on social media, which was a huge personal development shift. I mean, it's not that hard, like tactically, but up here it's a lot harder. And I was talking to someone and we came up with this idea called the speaker stage effect. I said, is it just me, or are there other people that for whatever reason, after they see someone speak on stage, they almost treat them like an authority figure, like they know what they're talking about, like they're better in some way, like almost a little mini celebrity. Speaking from my experience, I would see someone on stage, then we'd go in the VIP room after. I said, oh my, like I could see how I treated them. And if I was just talking to them like you and me talking right now, I probably wouldn't have treated them the exact same way. Is there some kind of science behind that you're aware of, or something behind that?
Yeah, in psychology, it's called projection, right? And it is a very simple thing. As we spoke about just a moment ago, there's a level of authority that's created because of overcoming the fear. And just by being on stage and sharing, if we do well as speakers, like if we do well, we help generate an experience in the members of the audience, right? They get an insight, or they hear, like part of what I do is I tell stories of transformation. And if people hear a story of transformation, part of them goes, I can transform too, right? And so then they rise up in some way, they become empowered, they feel better about themselves. And so in psychological terms, they take that feeling and they project it onto the person that they think gave them that feeling. Not, it's all subconscious. And that's cool. There's benefit in that. And that's part of the role that we play as speakers. And I'm glad you brought it up, because hopefully we do it in a conscious way and don't think, "Ooh, I'm better than everybody because people are smiling at me."
Yeah, I was just saying, yeah, I agree. I think it's kind of surprising the first time I saw it in myself treating someone that way. And then the first speaking gig I ever gave, it was at a university. And I was just telling my story of like, hey, I, started this business, then this one, then both of which, total failures. But they led me to this job that I was working at the time. And I kind of told the story and got off stage. And these were all people my age. I think I was 20, 21 at the time. They were all about the same. And after, there was like a lunch where all of us got together, and, the school that I spoke at, they hosted a lunch for everyone. And people were talking to me, the other students, as if like they were talking up to me. I'm like, guys, we just having a conversation. We were talking with each other. And that was the first time I felt recognized for something that if I were to just tell someone a story, just like a conversation, wouldn't get the same reaction from just, I guess, the positioning of the entire thing of speaking on stage. It's very interesting, I guess, psychological thing, like you said. So for you, how do you go about balancing speaking and everything else you're doing now today? Obviously, we're on a podcast here. You're doing some speaking.
Yeah, I do some speaking, and I love it. And I have a show also. So, I have that as a regular platform for it. And like you, I make some videos for social media periodically. I speak a lot with my clients, and especially in the groups. Part of that is speaking, and I create content for them. So I love to speak. It's part of the picture. It's only one part. It's not the only thing I'm doing. So just balance it out like we do with everything in life.
Now, I think you were mentioning earlier that it was hard to see what impact speaking had on your business directly. If there was a way to quantify the impact speaking has on someone's business, what would you say that is? This question being for the entrepreneur out there that, they're in their grind, they're building their business, and they're thinking of speaking, but it just seems like, oh, that's so much work and a lot of stuff I got to do. I don't know if that's even worth my time. How could they quantify it to, get down to the numbers of it and say, yes, I see the ROI and this is worth my time?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, what I can say about that is what I said earlier about challenge with quantifying the benefit to my business. That was referring specifically to my show, my podcast.
Okay.
When it comes to speaking on stage, summits, those kind of things, that's a lot easier to quantify, at least to some degree, Because oftentimes someone says, "Oh, hey, I really liked what you said, and I'm interested in working with you," and they become a client. It's like, well, that's pretty clear. And though there's more benefit than that, because just like you spoke about earlier, it builds authority, right? And like having a book or like having a show, it helps people to say, "Yeah, you know what? That dude's for real. He's got some credibility. He's got some authority, and you can see that he's got some confidence." And I'll say one more thing. I don't know if this is non-quantifiable, but a more subtle benefit is the more we speak, the more clear we get, right? One of my teachers used to say, when you speak, business happens. And originally when he said that, I thought, well, okay, that really means like that's how I reach people. What I realized later, though, there's a subtle, even spiritual, metaphysical level to that, which is putting energy out into the world as opposed to just staying in my own bubble. And when that happens, then there's a return flow.
I was listening to a mentor of mine who actually, he built gyms, and he was talking about how one day he just took the ads and continued running them. And for whatever reason, it was a different business and they weren't linking on the back end to what their main business was. And for whatever reason, he said that they weren't converting. Something was different. And what they ended up realizing was it was because it wasn't simple and easy for the person to find them on their long form YouTube channel. And because of that, where they would see the ad, then they would kind of investigate, who is this person? Are they BS? Are they real? Who is this? Let me get to really know them. Go see the long form content, kind of get to know them, then come back, then see the ad, then book the call or whatever was the CTA. How would you kind of break that down from the client's perspective? What's going through their head when they have that kind of decision?
Can you restate a little bit? Because I'm not sure I quite got what you're asking.
Yeah, so someone's seen an ad on the internet. They're going to have a lot of beliefs about that ad. Oh, this person's trying to sell me something, whatever it is. I don't even know them. It's the first time I've ever seen them. Maybe some early adopters take action and buy it right there. But when you have all of this long form free content available somewhere else, like you and your show, and like other people on stage, the person isn't as, you can get a lot more touch points with this long form content than you would be able to get just with the ad. How does that go through the client's mind, that journey?
Well, yeah, as you said, different for everybody. And there are small people that say, "Oh, I like that. Let me go for it." And yeah, most people are like, "Okay, well, let's take another step. Let's go further." I've seen it happen like years, even decades. I've had people that are like, "Yeah, I started following stuff you were doing, 12 years ago." I'm like, good golly, that's amazing.
Wow.
And never had any communication with them. And some are, I guess, maybe in between. They're like, kind of like you said, these, let's see if this dude's for real, and and then they do a little investigation. Yeah, there's a big spectrum on it. Did I get to what you were asking?
Yeah, I think so. And how did you make the decision to start your show?
Well, I mean, intuition, I guess, like most big decisions that I make in life, and I know one is for me. I love learning, and I love speaking to cool, interesting people like you. So, and if I can combine those things in a way that is of benefit for other people, hey, that's gold.
And tell me more about your show. I did a little investigation, but I don't think the listener here might be aware of it yet.
Sure, yeah. The show is called The Art of Vibrant Living Show. And The Art of Vibrant Living, that's the brand or the name or the energy that came to me 25 years ago when I first started working with people. And, what I mean by that is, well, let's contrast it with what I call the cult of meh, or mediocre monotony, which is, there's a lot of people in life that are just going through the motions, and hard on themselves. Life is kind of a slog. So the contrast is vibrant living, which is living with passion and purpose and prosperity and joy and excitement. And that's possible for everybody. So I bring on amazing people that are doing that in some way. And it might be people that are in the business world or the speaking world. It might be teachers. It might be artists. Anybody that I feel like has some cool key to that big picture of how to live a vibrant life.
And what have you learned from the years you've been doing your show?
Oh, goodness. I mean, how do I say that? I've learned so much because I've, had just phenomenal people. On a personal level, I think part of what I've learned is how to ask better questions, how to get below the surface. And one of my philosophies on life for myself, and especially with clients, is the quality of our life is related to the quality of questions we ask. Right?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I'm going to do some reverse coaching here. What if you were in my position, looking to deliver value for the aspiring speaker, the professional speaker, the entrepreneur that speaks to grow their business? What is one question that would go below the surface that you would ask you if you were me?
Okay, let's see. This is like mirror in a mirror kind of thing. One of my favorite questions that I ask people is, what have you overcome, or what are some challenges along the way? Right. So I guess that's me asking you to ask me that question, right?
Yeah.
So shall I give a response to that?
Please. Yeah.
Yeah. I've done like a lot of people that are in business or growing in some way, and like a lot of my clients do, many times asking the questions of like, what are my superpowers? What are my gifts? What are the results I bring? And one of the responses that's come to me is, I've been blessed with many dark nights of the soul, right? By which, in case that language is not familiar, dark night of the soul is when we feel crushed by life, like we're in a dark, dark, scary night that's never going to end, and we feel like we're going to be ripped apart and dead. Let me see if I can make it more dramatic. And so I mentioned earlier the time when I was in my mid-20s and I got the divine whack upside my head. And it was a beautiful and amazing and blissful experience. I went from not believing in anything really to knowing there's a divine power guiding the universe. And I felt it. I felt oneness, but it was also really, really confusing. And I didn't understand what was going on. So when my feet came back down to the ground, before I got to my obsession with personal and spiritual development, it was like depression. Like, how do I live, right? My old model of the world was blown up. I don't know how to live this anymore. And I feel like our greatest value as teachers, as speakers, as coaches is what we've come through, right? What we've overcome ourselves. And that was a massive one for me.
How closely linked have you found your personal development and your spiritual development are?
Personal and spiritual development, intricately, inseparably linked. As I said, I realized like a lot of people talk about personal development, personal growth, and not necessarily spiritual development. And I'm aware that spiritual is a word that can sound weird to some people, and it's probably a word like love or meditation that has a zillion different interpretations for it. What I mean is personal, spiritual, we're all of that. It's all mixed in together.
If you could go back knowing everything you know now to that person that got that whack on his head, I think you said when you were in your mid-20s, what would you tell that person then that you know about yourself and your life now?
I would let him know that it's 100% blessing, right? And because at the moment, it felt like in one way, a great blessing, in another way, a curse, at least at certain points. And, I think at that point in my life, I didn't really have the understanding that uncertainty is okay. I was still walking around with that mistaken belief that I got to know and I got to figure out how to do things. And I was in New York on 9/11, just a few years after that, and I saw the second tower get hit by a plane, right? And in that moment, it was like this unraveling that happened in me, because I was like, I have no idea what could happen. Like anything could happen in any moment. So to be able to embrace uncertainty, or, if we take it more in spiritual terms, the great mystery, that's a beautiful thing. Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your business? It sounds really interesting. And by what you're saying, there's got to be, I'm assuming there's a kind of person that you solve a kind of problem for them. I'm very curious who that is and what kind of problem that is.
Yeah, thank you. Most of the people that come to me have a desire for more money, more income, more clients. I work with a lot of coaches and service providers, and who those people are. And not all of them. Some are like, I want to lose 100 pounds, or I want to transform my relationship, save my marriage, or successfully end this marriage, whatever it is. And who those people are, though, right? It's all walks of life, yet they are people that are hungry for more, right? Because I think sad truth is, a lot of people are okay with mediocre monotony, or they don't know there's something else, or they're not willing to face the challenges to overcome it. So I work with people that are courageous, that are committed, because change is not that easy, right? It takes some work. It takes facing the unknown, which goes against part of our human survival instinct. And I work with people that want to add more good to the world, right? And usually, oftentimes, they're people that have had some level of financial success, or even a lot of financial success, and kind of thought that would do it. That would bring them the joy and the vibrancy they want. And maybe it hasn't.
And I think that's a very common narrative out there. I mean, when I was a kid, I thought it was the same thing. It was, okay, go to high school, get good grades, go to college, get good grades, get a good high paying job. Then you go through the rim, the cycles of life. And then you'll be happy when you have the house, you have the wife, you have the kids, you have the car, you have all that stuff. But I realized that doesn't necessarily equal happiness. When people are in that position with you and they come to you saying, hey, I was sold this dream or indoctrinated with this dream my whole life of what I'm supposed to want to be happy. I'm here now. I'm supposed to be happy. I'm not. What do you tell them?
Awesome. Because, so many people are still walking around in life thinking, ooh, if I just had more money, I'd be happy. So yeah, you're in a great position because that's not true. That's not the thing that delivers it. So way ahead of the game. Cool. So let's create something different now. Let's create what you really want.
And how do you find what they really want?
How do we find it? People know. We ask questions. Life and business is trial and success. So with questions, with honest self-inquiry, with presence, I think that's the missing element a lot of the times for a lot of coaches, a real presence and a real love and caring. Like, yeah, come on, let's figure this out. We can do it. It's possible.
And you were saying earlier that you have guest spoken at a lot of summits and that kind of thing. I know a lot of coaches. I used to work with coaches and that kind of thing. I'm realizing a lot of them, they were wondering, how do I get these speaking gigs at these summits? How do I land these gigs? How have you gone about it, and what kind of guidance would you give to that coach or service provider that's looking to speak at summits and kind of get that recognition from stage that we were talking about?
Yeah, well, number one is just make a commitment to it. Say, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. And then if any of us do that, then, and these days it's so amazingly easy because there are 8 zillion summits and events and all of that happening. And there are always people that are looking for guest speakers, and of course there's a different level of quality and recognition with them. The main thing though is just do it, get into it, and reach out to people. And well, actually, let me say this, because this is maybe not so obvious for a lot of people. What the people that are hosting the summits or the events are doing is to benefit them some way, to serve their clients, maybe to generate business for them. So if we're looking to be a guest or a guest speaker in some place, we do really well to look at the event organizer or the host and say, hey, how can I help you? How can what I do, who I am, be of benefit to you? And that's a little bit rare still, because so many people are like, yeah, I want to speak because I'm the bee's knees. I got so much to share. Or I want to speak because I want people to look at me, or I want it to grow my business. So yeah, coming from that perspective of how can I benefit the host and how can I benefit their audience, that puts people way ahead of the game.
That's interesting you say that. There was another speaker that I had on here. He's a very, very top level speaker. His name's Scott Schilling. And he had mentioned one thing that a lot of speakers get wrong that they should pivot is they think it's them first, then the audience, then the promoter. When really them as a guest speaker, it's the promoter first, then it's the audience. They are really last on that list right there. They need to make it make sense for the promoter, the guy organizing the event. They need to make the audience get a lot of value because that looks great for the promoter. Then they need to add value to the promoter because they're the person having them there. And if they could do that, they're going to get invited back almost every single time. For you, what have you learned doing all these summits and, getting booked and going to other summits and going to other virtual events and in-person events? What have you learned speaking at all these events?
Thank you. And I'll add a piece to what you just said, because 100% agree with what Scott said on that. And there's another benefit to that orientation, because as you started early in our conversation, people are scared to speak, right? It's a big fear. And part of what's going on with that is we're focused on ourselves when we're afraid to speak. So if we make our focus on the promoter, the event host, and especially if we make our focus on the people we're speaking to, then the fear goes away. There's no place for it. It becomes all about the person we are serving. Right. So that's a huge benefit, and it makes us way more effective on so many different levels, just in terms of the quality of what we're sharing, and also just the way people receive what we're sharing. So that was a side note. I feel like I missed your question. Will you say it again?
Yeah, of course. What have you learned after guesting and speaking at a lot of these virtual and in-person summits?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is just an added element to what you said about making the host or the promoter top priority. One of the things that helps me a lot in doing that is people say, well, here's the format, and we're going to do it in 15 minutes, or it's going to be 3 minutes, or it's going to be an hour and a half. And I say, okay, cool. Yeah, awesome. Right. For us as speakers to have the flexibility to do it in a way that works for them, and know and trust in ourselves. Yeah, you know what? I can deliver value, whether it's in 90 seconds or 90 minutes or 3 days, whatever it is. I'm going to show up and give value. That's tremendous. It gives us a lot of flexibility. Again, it helps the promoter a lot, and it increases our value. Right? To be able to do that means we have to go to another level of confidence, and we grow.
And you run your business primarily remotely, correct?
Yeah.
And I was speaking to actually a client of mine. He runs his business from Alaska, and he was talking about how there was a lot of personal development that he had to do to bring his business national. He's got employees in all 50 states, but from Alaska, it was kind of hard to do that. So I'm curious, how is running a business from Maui different than running a business on the mainland?
Yep, time zone for sure is a factor with that, right? So you're in Europe, I'm in Hawaii, we're probably like 12 hours apart. So 7 a.m. for me, which is not typically when I start sort of doing something that's more public. And sometimes it's earlier, and sometimes if I'm part of a summit or something, I'm like, okay, I'm getting up at 4 a.m. for this. And that's okay, right? It's also good to have flexibility. And yeah, I think that's the main thing.
It's time zone. That was a pretty big limiting belief that I had about going to Bali. But I was talking to my friend about it, and she was saying, Ryan, in Bali, the time zone of a lot of calls you have with Americans is you can speak to them in the morning, because in the morning Bali time is afternoon America time. When you were in Bali, did you deal with that time zone stuff, or were you not operating in the same kind of business at the time?
I was in-person business then, brick and mortar. I had a center. It was literally, though, when I made that transition, 2017, from there to here. And it was also when the world was starting, well, not, compared to COVID, but when the world was starting to wake up to, oh, yeah, well, it actually works to speak to people this way.
That's cool. And so if you were to go back to Bali and run your business from there now, what would you do differently?
Oh, so many things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because one is I wouldn't create a brick and mortar business, and I don't have a desire to do that anymore here now. Although I do see clients in person, and I do events in person also, and I love doing things in person. And I mean, one of the great benefits we touched on a little bit earlier, personal and spiritual development, and you asked about personal and spiritual development, the relationship between the two, and I don't think we spoke really about personal spiritual development in relationship to business.
Ooh, touch on that. That's interesting. I'm curious.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, we could talk for hours about that. Don't worry, I won't. It's so integral, at least for me in the work I do. And I think for everybody, because there's one basic business law, which is if you want to earn more, then you need to provide more value. And if we want to provide more value, we need to be more valuable, right? So one of the ways that I, am able to keep my business growing is I keep growing. Like, I'm obsessed with that. I do a lot of introspection, a lot of personal work, a lot of self-creation. So when I look back to who I was as a business person, as a leader, as a teacher, as a coach, that was 7-8 years ago. Like, I don't even know who that dude was. It's a different person. So many things I would do differently because I've learned so much differently now. Mm-hmm. One more thing I'll say, if I can. Can I say one little bit more?
Please.
Right.
Yeah.
So when I left Bali and made the transition, that was another dark night of the soul for me. It was unexpected. It didn't go the way I wanted. It was really challenging. And one of the great benefits of that was, I wouldn't call that one a divine 2x4. That was more like a divine slap, 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 slap upside the face. And it resulted in a greater level of humility, right? So one of the things I got out of it was more humility and also way more appreciation for the work I get to do and for the people I get to serve. Not that I necessarily took it for granted before, but from where I sit now, the gratitude I have now, I look back and I'm like, yeah, I was missing a certain level of it then.
Now, I know we're coming close on time here, so I only have 2 more questions for you. Let's say I'm a listener here and I'm finding so much value in what you're saying. I'm thinking, this guy's touching on some points, and I didn't know there was anyone out there that he could touch on that. Where can they find you on the internet? Keep a little mini version of Daniel in their pocket.
Thank you. Very easy, danielaaron.com, DanielAaron. I am on most of the social platforms also, though between you and I don't put that much attention there. Most of my attention is on my clients and on talking to people. Like I really value having conversations like this.
Awesome. Okay. So danielaaron.com. And then what would you say from all of these life experiences you've had is one knowledge nugget you would give to the aspiring speaker, the professional speaker, or the entrepreneur that speaks to grow their business?
I have a book that's called The Art of Spiritual Leadership, 40 Laws to Transform Your Life and the World. The number one law is my response to that, which is you are amazing, right? And it's so easy to forget that. It's so easy to focus on our deficiencies. And so as a speaker, and even if you're a new speaker, touching into that, or, like Muhammad Ali said, I am the greatest, creating that sense of yourself as amazing, as a champion, as the best in the world, and not as a comparison, but just as a way to bring out your best. Not only does it bring out your best, it also gives your best to the people that you serve in the audience. And that makes a huge difference in the world.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, guys, if you're listening here and you found value in what Daniel has been sharing, you got a friend that you think might just need that find one little sliver of value in here. That might be that one thing they need to bring them to that next level of their business, their life, whatever it may be. Do them the favor and share this with them. And Daniel, thanks for taking the time to make this appearance and talk here. Guys, thank you for listening.
Pleasure. Thank you, Ryan.
Cheers, Daniel.